If you're watching this video today, you've probably achieved some success in your life. You've maybe got that promotion you always wanted, you got the dream girl, you started your business, but deep down, you still question yourself. Maybe people come up to you, they pat you on the back, and you feel as if you should feel better with your own life. But really, you feel a bit of emptiness, you're questioning whether you're on the right path. Today, we're going to look at empty success, what that looks like, and the reasons why this might occur in your life. So let's get straight into it. What is empty success? The biggest thing is life might look good from the outside. You've hit basically all the metrics that society kind of supports. Things like you've got a good job, you're making money, you're in good health, but deep down something feels slightly off. Maybe you can't put a finger on it. Maybe it's just a bit of anxiety, a bit of low mood when you're looking forward to what's coming up in your life. Maybe you're just not feeling too motivated or inspired at what you've got coming up. Another thing is empty success is where you adopt other people's ambitions. This is common. The most common example is you've gone to school, you've maybe become something like a doctor or a lawyer, and it looks great. You're getting paid well. Your family love it because they can tell that to their friends, and their friends are going to be impressed by that. But you have never been completely committed to it, and maybe you've gone along with the whole process, but you're now at a stage where you're very much in deep, and there's a lot of psychological pressure to continue on that path. But again, it's one of those where you need to go through that, and I guess we can be grateful for the experience of getting there to learn that maybe this isn't right. But that is a big one. You take on the goals of society. Another example is everyone in society, and this is more in the entrepreneur online business space, will say 10k a month, or you need to get to 1 million a month. It's interesting that for some reason 950,000 in terms of revenue generated for a business, we wouldn't be so interested in that, even though it's only 50,000 or even 1 million and a little bit more, because society tells us it's 10k a month, is 1 million in revenue. That's what we need to aim for. So that's another symptom of empty success. You just feel something is missing as well. You're going through life, things are pretty good, but there's something that you just feel you could be having more satisfaction in what you're doing and more enjoyment day to day. And that's very general as well. I will caveat that anyone can feel like that, even if you're on your dream path in life and you're doing what you're meant to be doing, that you can still feel like that. So take that with a pinch of salt. Another thing is your logical brain persuades you to continue. So let's go back to the example of becoming a doctor. Maybe you put so much time into that and you get to a stage where your brain says, if you continue another 5-10 years, I'm going to get to this position and then I'm going to be earning this much. So you've invested so much of your meaning, your time, your energy, your money as well with something like that, that it's very hard to then jump back to a place where you step away from that. It's massive sunk cost fallacy, where you've put so much in and it's so hard to then step away. Linked to that is you're pursuing something only really for external benefit. A great example of this is you're pursuing something because you want that end result. And I see this a lot where people will say, I want to hit that goal of 10k a month. I want to be focused on that. The problem is you then get to that, and then it's like you look around at your life and maybe you're just working all the time or you're very stressed because you've only focused on the money. You haven't really asked deeper questions towards yourself to make you realize what you're really interested in. And that is a game of trial and error as well. But definitely empty success is about pursuing something only for external benefit. It links back to the idea of keeping up with the Joneses, where you need to keep spending to match what your neighbours have. But you're not really asking yourself the question of, is this what I really want? Is this my own definition of success? As a result of this, we build a life based on impressing others, competing, achieving, performing. This is a result of the common path and the school system, a big part, the work culture as well, depending on where you are in the world, but certainly in the UK, in the US. The school culture, and I've had this in my experience, it's about focusing on the end result. When you're studying, when you're taking exams, that is the only thing. So we find it easy to get away from the present moment. And I remember when I was at school that I was always waiting for the end of the day. I didn't enjoy the studying. When it's coming up to exam season, I just wanted the results, the test to be over. And then once they're over, I just wanted the results. So it was always a culture of looking forward. Another thing is results are what matter. They didn't place too much emphasis relative to the focus on results about the type of person you are, the values you have. Yes, school covers that in small ways, but it's not the focus. The other thing that school teaches us is improve on what you're bad at. So let's say you're amazing at maths, but you can't speak English. In that case, you're going to spend your time at school. They're going to make you get better at the D result in English, and even though you got the A star in maths and it was really easy and you loved it, they're going to push you in that direction. And that's just how, well, particularly GCSEs work. It changes at A levels, which in the UK is where you pick 3 more specific subjects. But actually, there's very little match up to the working world and later life, where people are really rewarded for being very good at one thing, sticking to that, and committing entirely. So that's what school and culture teach us. What this leads to is an external life focus. What happens is it then matters more what people think of me. This is the focus, and results matter more than passion or meaning or even that journey. Even if it's just a case of learning what you don't like, there's not so much a focus on that. School could be a great opportunity to really find out what you hate. A lot of people, my sister, she hated maths. She didn't enjoy it. She wasn't that good at it. And instead, they forced her to go down the maths route. And I think the percentage of maths that she uses now is so slim. And I really think this is a backwards way of looking at how we should pursue meaning and find success and enjoyment in life. With this, the question to you is it any surprise that we pursue career paths to get rich? So many people are focused on the material, and it's not surprising. Everything we're taught is focused on that outcome, and translated from school to the grown-up world, it becomes money that a lot of people will strive towards. We fear pursuing what we're really interested in because, as I mentioned, in school, in our development, we're pushed to be quite broad and general, which is fine. Maybe we need to be general, but it stops us from really honing in on what we're passionate about. Is it any surprise we obsess over the end result? I've explained that, how school leads to that, and how it carries on down the line, when really life is such a long journey, and so much of it is just in the process of going towards what we're interested in, failing along the way, enjoying the lessons, building good relationships, living by our values. These are the things that give us a good life. Ultimately, we end up with less trust in ourselves. We're not promoted to follow our intuition. We're promoted to be kind of good all-rounders across the board. We have a lot of influence from our parents at that age. So what happens as a result? We maybe follow that path of false success, and it becomes harder and harder as we go through that cycle to separate ourselves from what other people think, what other people want, what school wants, what our parents want. And ultimately, we end up distrusting ourselves, and it becomes a long process to go from where we're having this false success, we're pursuing things we aren't passionate about, and we slowly come along to a place where we learn more about ourselves, we learn what we do and what we don't like, but that takes time. And so, is there any surprise that success feels empty for so many people? No, it's not. The truth. As I said, parents, schools, and institutions never really gave us the tools to discover what lights us up and moves us towards the things that we're interested in. I've got a caveat though, living differently, and this is more towards deeper success rather than false success. It isn't comfortable. Here are just a few things we perceive we risk. Obviously, fear comes from perceived risk. It's not actual risk in many times, and that's often in our heads. But when we live a more authentic life, some of these risks come up for us. So, big list here, the things that when we pursue a deeper level of success, we miss out on the routine and the certainty of our current state of life. Maybe we have status, we have money from what we've chosen to pursue that maybe isn't our true purpose, our true calling. We miss out on belonging if we take a risk to step away from, say, I do marketing, that's my main thing, but if I step away from that, I in some ways lose those connections. It impacts relationships. People have a lot of potential judgment for people going against the status quo. Another thing is my own identity, that I can feel very unhinged and sort of uncentered if I've done one thing my own whole life and done things for other people as well and bear them in mind. That can really upset you mentally and make it a challenging mental experience. And also, just probably one of the biggest ones is the comfort we have of being in that sort of consistent cycle where we are pursuing false success. Is less vulnerable than saying this is what I really want and I'm now going to go for it, and it's on display for the whole world to kind of see. That's very risky, from a psychological and all of these, all kind of the core fundamental human needs. One of the biggest risks of all as well is I've wasted years pursuing this, and it's kind of linked to the other points, and I can't change now. I'm too old, I'm too young, I spent too much money on this. We give ourselves all kind of reasons that are in our heads to prevent us from changing. So that's part of it as well. We've been conditioned in a certain way, but once we're in this place, our brains hate changing the story you have written about your own life. So if you're that doctor, if you're that lawyer, if you think this is the way, and along the way your brain will kind of balance up all the experiences you have, so it's kind of a coherent perspective of the world, and our brains do not like changing the story we have written. So this is a big challenge that we face if we're looking to pursue a deeper level of success. One thing you can do though that will help is open a journal, have a reflection, and just weigh up what would happen if you just carried down the path you're going down. If you keep having this feeling where you feel empty in what you're achieving, it doesn't feel too meaningful to you, just visualize what it would be like if you then live that life forever. And I did that with my first breakup. I wrote it down, imagined if I continued on this path, and I had all those fears that I mentioned on the past slide. I was scared. I was very worried about being alone because it was my first long-term relationship. But I imagined what would happen if I continued unhappy, unfulfilled at this moment in my life. And if I play that out over a number of years, where would I end up? And it wouldn't be a happy place. So we have to give ourselves a reason to want to change, but there are a lot of things that keep us stuck. So the change is really having, instead of an external life focus, thinking about what are other people thinking of me, thinking about the results or what I should be going after, and changing to an internal life focus. And that's about asking the questions and having difficult conversations with yourself, time in solitude, time to write and journal and ask yourselves, what can I do that will actually make me proud of me? If I'm 80, if I was a young kid, what would I look up to that I could be doing now? What really lights up my soul? How can I actually make the journey beautiful and enjoyable? What are the values that really matter to me? Because that's going to determine the kind of friends you choose, the place you live, the career you choose, and how you live your life and interact with others. So I would actually take some of these questions and make up your own ones as well. But this will give you a better idea. And the thing is, with going from an external life focus to an internal life focus, it will take time. I know for me, it was a number of years, and it's a case of slowly expressing myself over that period, because I was a massive people pleaser, and I slowly just expressed my opinions. So like really small things, started to go solo traveling and stuff like that. And then you end up learning more about yourself and what deep success looks like to you. And these are a couple of my experiences. The first one was I lost kind of one of my best friends. We just sort of drifted away, and I ended up shape-shifting. So what this means is I was going to social situations. I'd be a different kind of person with one person. With another one, I'd be a different kind of person again. So I would always be changing my character to suit who I was with. And the issue with that, I quickly saw that, right, I actually did make quite a lot of friends doing that, but I didn't feel they were close. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't be vulnerable, open, express my dreams, express my fears. I was always slightly on edge. So that was a massive case of false success, where I just realized that I'd spent so much time and energy trying to be this person that I thought people would like, but it was only by doing that, and we need to go sometimes the long way round to find out that it's not helpful for us. And for me, I needed to have that experience to learn that I need to put more effort into being myself, being authentic, even if 1 in 10 people like me rather than 6 in 10. That's better, because at least they're liking the real me. The other one was working remotely. I set up an online marketing agency, and I began traveling. I was out in Vietnam. I was living there. It's very affordable cost of living there, and I'd achieved that dream I'd been working on for about a year that I'd had in my mind. I was now working remotely, had my business set up, and was able to live the life. And it was a massive question of me of now what, that this goal was actually pretty surface level, and it was still meaningful in its own way. But at that point, I had to face that question. Still a question I work on today, of what is the deeper meaning of my life? What does deep success look like for me? So it's an ongoing journey, and we sometimes need to go down the wrong path to find the right one. What worked for me, I sat down with a pen and paper in a quiet room. I slowed down and asked myself questions to really understand myself better, the questions I showed you on that previous slide. And as I said, I tested expressing myself over time and tried out new things. So a few things I did, I set up a men's group in London. So I'm here with longer hair. I went on a 5-day hike from London down to Brighton, wild camping. I went on my first solo trip. So this was in Lisbon, and this was a men's rites of passage retreat. So this was all in the same year after that breakup. And I just tried and tested and saw what I worked, saw what I liked, saw what I didn't. And from that, I learned more about myself. And this is the change. It's stepping from an external life focus to an internal life focus. Here's a warning, because things are never going to go perfectly. You're going to hate some of the things you try. You're definitely going to second guess yourself. You'll probably lose friends if you're realizing where you are isn't where you want to be. I did this when I stopped drinking. That I lost a lot of the friends I was hanging around with because I didn't want to drink, and I guess that as well, it just didn't gel as well. We weren't quite on the same page. So, but as a result of this, we get the blessing of having much better problems. you maybe have to face these problems above. You need to face maybe losing a few friends, but you'll get to a stage where you understand yourself far better and you're on a life path that feels deeply meaningful to you. Just going to leave the presentation with success based on anything but internal fulfillment is bound to feel empty, and that's been the truth in my life. Hope that was helpful, and till the next one, goodbye.